goddesses, and welcome back to another podcast recording episode. These episodes are newer to my channel. It's where I record my podcast live on, well, not live yet. I think I have to make it to like a certain subscriber count. I think it's 1,000 in order to go live. So once I make it to 1,000, then I'll definitely be doing some lives. So if you guys want to see lives, well, tell your friends to subscribe. I'm really bad at like promoting when I'm like out in the world, my podcast and my YouTube channel, because, well, one, people don't normally ask. Two, I don't normally just start talking about myself unless people ask. I don't know what it is. Normally when I'm out, I'm just trying to have a good time and I'm not really thinking about it. Even when I vlog, people are not like, hey, what are you doing? I think they assume, but they never ask like, do you have a YouTube channel? Or why are you vlogging? I don't know, it's so weird. Anyways, I'm in deep thought. I'm getting off track. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button is what I'm trying to say in a very roundabout way. But if you are here and would like to continue on this podcast journey, well, sit back, grab a snack. You know, normally podcasts do take a minute, so I'm just forewarning you guys. It's probably gonna be like a 45-minute little like snippet of information, but I am thankful for all of you beautiful people that tune in, especially all my day ones that are here, have been here and seen my baby channel start to flourish. I love you guys. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Let's go ahead and hop into today's stream. I'm gonna go ahead and click the record button in just a second and then we'll hop right into it. Hello, gods and goddesses, and welcome back to another episode of Life of an Everyday Goddess podcast. I know I've been MIA, but that's because I was in the MIA. No, I'm just kidding. I was recently actually in Florida to visit my girlfriend, Lauren, that I met on the Sacred Rebels retreat. I did do a whole podcast about my experience with plant medicine, my experience with the retreat, and what I saw and everything that I went through. So if you guys are interested in the details with that, that is, I think it was like 2 months ago now on the podcast platform, as well as 2 months ago in the YouTube realm. So I definitely changed a lot of my perspectives after that trip, and I did talk about that on the podcast and on the YouTube platform, just kind of like the awakenings that I had whenever I did do the plant medicine and whenever I did go on the retreat. But one of the people by my side was Lauren, which is who I saw in Florida. And whenever you do something so sacred and so beautiful with somebody, it just creates this beautiful bond with you guys, because you shared this like really special, intense moment with each other. And it's so crazy because the two of us have so many similarities, like inner demons, if you want to call it that, but just different aspects of ourselves that we are trying to heal that mirror each other. Now, if you were to see me and Lauren and just like off the street, I'm walking one way, she's walking off, you know, the other side of the street, and somebody was to tell you those two girls live very similar lives and they have very similar traumas, you'd be like, they're two different walks of life. They look completely different, like there's no way. But we do. We do. And it's just so crazy because you can never judge a book by its cover. And that's something that I've learned within my own life and I've seen within a lot of my, you know, friends' life. And even people who are not extremely close to me, I'll sit and listen to their story just to see how similarly it relates to somebody else that I know. And again, different walks of life, different types of people, aesthetically, except for the core of who they are, is exactly the same. And it's just so crazy to me that a lot of people still categorize them in, you know, themselves into groups of, I only hang out with this type of people, I only date this type of people, I only go after X, Y, and Z. And it's just so limiting because one of my greatest friendships now is with somebody that on the outside looking in, you know, like, would we probably be in the same sort of like setting? Would we be shopping at the same places? No, probably not. And I did talk about that whenever I went to the Sacred Rebels retreat, that a lot of my friend group, they don't really do that spiritual stuff with me. Now, do they believe? Yeah. They accept me for what I believe? Yes. And I love that. But when I hang out with them, it's like those Vegas vlogs or other types of things that you guys see, that like fun side of me. But then I have this whole other side of me that is completely, spiritual and mystical and wanting to go into the unknown and wanting to discover all the craziness in the world. And I don't want to get too far off track, because I know that people who listen to me on here and on YouTube, they're all different walks of life, which I love, because every single person who is drawn to me has an aspect of who I am inside of them. Otherwise we wouldn't be drawn to each other. And so for me, if you would have told me 10 years ago, oh yeah, so-and-so was talking to this spiritual being and it was in the astral realm while they were meditating, I would have looked at you like you were nuts. Flat out, I would have been this person's crazy, they're on crack. I would have just been so closed off to the idea of certain realities. But I think the more that I've lived life, obviously I'm older now, the more that I've seen things, the more that I've experienced, things on my own, I'm able to not really give anything for sure that this is truth. Anything. I'm really skeptical about everything, but not in a scared way, in a learning aspect. I want to learn everything there is to learn. And I think that when you don't feel like you know it all, you're more open to observing the information. And this is why I'll sit there and I'll listen to people, because I don't know it all. But just because I don't know it all doesn't mean I don't want to share. I share what I know and allow people to share what they know, and based off that, maybe we can make a new knowing. And I know there was a point in my life where I was a lot more closed off as far as learning, as far as that's not the right way, it's only this way. But I think within the last 4 to 5 years, yeah, I would say, since 2018, I have seen miracles. Flat out. I don't know how else to say it. I've seen miracles, and once you've seen a miracle, whether how big or how small, it shifts your whole mindset. It makes you, I guess, just look at the world differently. It gives you just a different perspective on, if this is possible, what else is possible, And there's so many times in my life where it's how the hell am I still alive? And I honestly do feel there are higher angelic beings that watch over us. I know that that's not everybody's belief, but I strongly believe that. I've had so many situations where I should have not, still be alive, but something was protecting me. And I don't know if it's divine intervention is what they say, some people. But whatever it is, it's kind of crazy. And this is kind of what sparked this inner journey of wanting to know things and wanting to understand, how did this happen to me? How am I still alive? What is beyond, And in the spiritual community, they say it's beyond the veil. That, obviously there's multiple dimensions. And I think, I don't want to go into a quantum physics rant, because I've done that a few times on my podcast, and the podcast has been 2 hours. I'm not kidding. But there's just so many different realities that you could really tap into in the quantum world. And strangely, I relate to Albert Einstein, which he did not like quantum physics because it didn't make sense to him. Because with quantum physics, there's not a definite answer. It's infinite amount of answers. One problem can have infinite solutions instead of one problem has to be this answer. And for me, the way that my mind works is quantumly, where I don't want to just know the one solution. There has to be more than one solution. It's just crazy to me because, again, if you've ever experienced any type of scenario where it's I don't know how it worked out, but it just did, when it wasn't supposed to, when all of the odds were against you, or if you know somebody who's had something like that happen in their own personal life, then you can really ask yourself hey, how did that happen? It wasn't supposed to happen. And there's always those 1 in a million or 1 in so many that, have these miraculous stories. And even when I worked in the medical field for a number of years, I saw so many crazy things happen with people's health based off of intention or based off beliefs and hopes that they had within themselves. And I saw that firsthand, where people who shouldn't have been alive were still alive. And in the medical field, you just call it a miracle. You're just a 1 in a whatever. How many chances of that happening? And they're the one person, because there's really no way to classify it. And for me, whenever you want to expand your life in a beautiful way, you really can't put anything in a box. And the way that I move through life now, older, wiser, I move through like my intuition. And this is something that I learned a while back. Obviously, intuition, we all have it, male or female, we all have intuition. Some people are just more in tune with it. And when you're tapped into your intuition, you can really determine who should be around you, friend group, significant other, what job is right for you, what opportunities are right for you, which direction to go on the freeway. I've had friends who've said that, they've, I'm saying, a lot, but friends that have told me I've missed and avoided accidents because something just told me, hey, take this route. It's a longer route home. And they do it and they avoid a collision. Or, even like 9/11, I know that's a very touchy subject, but I've heard testimonies of people who said that something told them not to go into work that day. Not anything but their own intuition, right? Their intuition, something just said, don't go into work today. And so they didn't. Or they were running late, so they were in traffic. And it's almost like, had they not started to run late, they would have been in the building whenever it exploded. So there's just like a lot of weird things that happen within our lives. And for me, whenever I take the time to slow down and really tune into what the heck is it that is going on with my life and really listen to my intuition, that's when my life starts to go good. The minute I get too chaotic and crazy and stop taking that time for myself every day, my life just seems chaotic and I get anxiety and then I get depressed and I'm like, why me? And at the end of the day, I chose that, those choices that I was talking about. Like, you can choose to give back to yourself every day. Otherwise, you are going to feel depleted and you are going to feel, lost. I don't know what better word to use but lost, because you haven't connected with yourself. So you are kind of detached, right? Detached. I was going to say, it sounded like I was going to say deity. Mind you, I have not had coffee yet. It's actually on the way. I just got a text message I just saw through my phone. So shout out to my coffee delivery person. Anyways, moving on. I learned from the last retreat that I was on, the first retreat that I was on, that a lot of my traumatic life experiences, if you want to call them that, which it depends on who you're asking, perception. A lot of the experience that shaped me to have certain guards up, that shaped me to, have these blocks in my love field and to really lose trust in people, or because I lost trust in myself. I didn't listen to my intuition. And when I replayed these, when I took the plant medicine and I replayed these scenarios in my life, I was hearing, this little birdie in my ear, your conscious, your angels, whatever it is you want to call it, but your intuition. I was hearing it say, hey, maybe you should leave this place. Hey, maybe you should go here. And I didn't listen. And sometimes it's like, did you not hear it because you were so distracted with the outside noise? Or did you not hear it because you didn't want to hear it? Or do you think you're nuts, etc.? But whenever you reflect back on your life, and all those times where you're like, I knew I should have, because you didn't follow your intuition. I've had plenty of those, telling you guys from personal experience. But that was the one key thing that I got away from doing the plant medicine, because I asked too, when I was in this state of meditation and I was reliving all of these scenarios in my life, and I asked myself, what can I do to prevent this from happening again? How can I break the cycle? How can I move forward? And all I kept hearing was, follow your intuition, follow your intuition. And all these imageries popped in my head, this scenario, had you listened, you would have not gone that way. Had you listened, you would have not gone that way. And that takes us back to the whole quantum physics, because there's so many different directions your life can go. And there's infinite possibilities of how it can go. And so every day you have a choice, every second you have a choice to either continue to go on your highest path, which is the path that your soul is yearning for, or all these other paths. And the journey in life, it's either you take the wrong direction and you learn from it, you grow from it, and then you move on, or you stay there, you know, you either get bitter or better. But you really do. It's either you explore these other options. But at the end of the day, whenever you follow your intuition, the right option will naturally be led to you, or you'll naturally just follow it. It'll naturally be shown, and you'll just be like, I already know, without a doubt. And I have a strong hunch that whenever you find your perfect person, that you don't question it. You just don't. I mean, my greatest friends, like, I don't question. And if I start to question a certain friend, then I have to ask myself, why are you questioning this? Is this the path that you want to go down with? Is this the energy that you want to have in your personal space? Yes or no? And I have to be really bluntly honest with me. with me. I have to be really bluntly honest with myself. I really do. Because with people, even with like jobs or just things, sometimes you get really emotionally attached. And when you have those attached emotions, it's hard to walk away. And for me, I'm like, is it going to do more damage both ways to stay, or is it going to be more healing to walk away now and let it burn? No, just kidding. Little Usher moment. But it's true, because different phases of my life, I stayed in places that I knew deep down were not the best for me, but I was too scared to push forward, or I was too scared of hurting someone's feelings, or I was too scared of how I would feel after, or what I would do after, how I would survive after, all of these what ifs, instead of just following my own intuitive self. Because the more that I do follow myself, and finally either like something happens and I'm forced out of that relationship, or I'm forced out of that job, or I'm forced out of, you know, any range of scenarios, I'm always okay after. And it's almost like, how much time would I continue to invest in something that wasn't going anywhere? It's like the road was empty. I was just repeating the cycle. And I've had that too, like in my life, where, you know, it was so hard to get over a certain relationship in my life, and I kept going back, and it was like repeating the cycle every time. So I would go back, and it was like a fresh start. It seemed like everything was great, rainbows, butterflies, and then it just ended up at the same place. But every time it ended up back, it was worse and worse and worse and worse, and till like finally I just had enough. But had I listened to like my eternal, you know, just self, without that emotion of wanting to be loved so bad, or without that emotion of hurting the other person, because I'm a really huge empathetic person, so I never really want to hurt anybody unless I feel like they're doing more damage to me. Like, how do I say that? Like, I'm okay with walking away from somebody I feel like doesn't give a F about me, or would do more damage to me internally, because I'm like, that doesn't help anybody. It's definitely not helping me. And if this person doesn't care for me, then why am I gonna extend my heart? I'd rather just bless them, let them be, and move on with my life. And I've had to learn that, and a lot of people think that that's like very cutthroat, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I've lived the other reality. It never gets better. Well, I don't want to say never. There's always possibility. But sometimes you have to alleviate yourself from a situation in order for it to get better. Like if I was addicted to something and the supply kept coming around, it's going to be that much harder for me to get over that addiction. Or if that addiction is like that supply of something, whether it's a person, place, thing, whatever it is eliminated, then I'm forced to detox. And then I can either get bitter or better. But having it there is that much more challenging. So even though you feel like you're doing the right thing, sometimes it's more damaging than just walking away. Sometimes that person also needs to, it's almost like you know how people like, oh, they never realize what they have till it's gone. And if you know what, it's gone and nothing happens, you guys both move on with your lives, then you guys both move on with your lives, you know? But at least you broke that cycle of possible toxicity. Because if you're ever questioning whether or not you should leave, whether or not you should be with somebody, whether or not you should have a certain friend, whether or not you should invest in something, if you're really questioning about things, then I would like really follow why you're questioning. Why are you questioning? Things that are meant for you, I think naturally feel a certain way. They naturally feel a certain way. And there is a difference between questioning, like out of curiosity, like, oh, there might be, like, I have this job offer, I wouldn't mind it, I like it, but I also have this other job offer. Now, which one do I like better? Okay, that's options. To do that with like a spouse, like, that's kind of weird, right? But sometimes you do go in the dating field and you're like, oh, I like this person, but which one do I like better? Okay, nothing against either one of them. But if you're at the point where you're like, I really don't like this job, but I really need to stay here because I need a paycheck, but there are parts of the job that I like, but then I feel so drained here. That type of questioning, that's a different type of questioning. And that's when it's like, why are you really staying there? Why are you really holding on? Is it because there's another option, or is it because you feel like you're forced there? Because a lot of the questioning, especially when you feel like you have to, which no one ever has to do that, like, has to be anywhere that they don't want to be. Whenever you start to really question things like that, then I would really take time for myself and question why I'm questioning that so intensely. I had to do that recently. I have to do that all the time whenever it comes to like people, because I'm very energy sensitive. And so whenever I allow people into like my inner circle, whether that's dating, friendships, partnerships, as far as like work and stuff, I can absorb their energy pretty quickly. And it's a good thing, I guess, because I'm able to like help people out of a funk, transmute their energy, make them feel lighthearted. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's just so healing to be around you, like in person, like your energy is so warm, and I feel more like myself, like you've helped me out of X, Y, and Z. Or I've never opened up to anybody the way that I've opened up to you, because I do hold no judgment, because who am I to judge? Really, like, who am I to judge? You made some choices, you move on with your life. Like, where are you now? Who are you now? And for me, I just like to hold space for people. And I think a lot of people don't get that. And so my energy can become very therapeutic, but then it can also have a flip side of people taking advantage of that free energy healing, that free, that takes life force from me. Because whenever I do that and I do hold space for people, it does take energy of my own energy. And so whenever I invite people into my inner circle, I think us all as women, though, I want to say that side note, all have that ability. Whether or not you want to share that with the world is something else. I used to have a lot of walls up, and so I wasn't able to really give that to people. Now that my walls are down, because I really genuinely want to help people, people can feel it. Where if I want to, I can put a wall up and you would never feel that energy unless I wanted you to. So I think we all have it as women, that nurturing nature, that motherly nature. So you can definitely tap into that if you guys want to. I can show you guys how I do it in a different video, in a different day. I could show you how I tap into that feminine energy, how I tap into that healing energy, how I hold space for people, if you guys are interested. But sometimes it's like people will like leech onto you, and in an unhealthy way. And the minute I feel that, or the minute I feel anything that's a little off, I'll kind of test the waters and say, okay, let's test this out a little bit, see if I'm crazy, because I'm questioning this. And sometimes, especially when you're fogged, like when your emotions are super tied into something, it's hard to see. So sometimes I have to like put a situation up just to see and test. And if the test goes like however, then I'm like, okay, my intuition was right, and I should have never doubted my intuition. I won't doubt you again. And then I slowly just cut ties. That's just how I operate. I feel like for me, being an empathic person, empathic person, it's just the best way to not drain yourself for the wrong reasons. Because I used to do that too with jobs. I used to be so self-sacrificing in jobs. I used to always show up early, unpaid, just so everything can run smoothly, all of that. But you know what happens? You get sick, or you can't make it to work, or something else happens. do you think that job really gives a F about you as much as you gave that job? For all of that work that you've given the job, they just find it as your standard and they expect it every single time. And even though that job is paying you, they're also paying other people the same amount or more, most of the time more, because other people are like, no, this is my value, you're gonna have to pay it regardless, and you're more passive and you just accept whatever. And then it sucks, because it sucks it doesn't work out and you're like, really, I wasted all that time, all that energy on what? So then what happens is you could either get bitter or better. You could either stay mad about it, or you can up your standards. You can understand more of what your value is. You can understand that your energy is precious. You can understand that you're not just gonna freely give like that anymore. Because I did have that, like my first job ever in the medical field, like I was taken advantage of so much in that job, first 2 jobs actually, but it was just crazy because I was just overly given and I wanted just, the employer to like me because it was obviously my first job. So I just overly gave, never was really compensated, and there was people who were giving way less that were making way more, and I'm like, this doesn't add up. But the fact that I didn't say anything, the fact that I didn't act on it, it kept happening. And so now with people, places, things, jobs, I will say something and I will act on it. If it's not for me, I allow it to leave out of my life and not allow it to continue to drain me. I allow it to move forward in the way that it needs to, and I allow myself to move forward in the way that I need to. And the more that I follow my intuition is the more that I just step into the best path for me. Again, there's so many choices and so many routes that I could go every day, and I could get really petty if I wanted to, but at the end of the day, who is that benefiting? For me, I'd rather just take the higher road and move forward than to stay stuck. Flat out. Because there's a lot of people I've met in my life that I've tried to help, but you can't unstuck somebody. I don't know if that's not a word, but you can't. As much as you love somebody, you have to allow them to make their choices. And that's another reality that was really hard for me, because you want to help people. Again, I was in situations in my life where people wanted to help me, and I was so hard-headed that I needed to make my choice on my own. And people never understood it. And looking back, I'm like, what were you thinking, girl? But my emotions were involved. And so now when I see somebody going through something, I try not to force it. I just hold space if they need it. I send a prayer if they want it. And whatever choices that they make is their choices. Do you hold judgment? I do not hold judgment, because I've been there. And everyone learns in their own time. Everyone learns in their own pace. And this is why I love podcasts or YouTube, because when people want to watch it, they click the play button. When people want to listen, they click the listen button. It's not in your face, you have to, this is the only way, because that's not my journey. Those are not my choices. And maybe they're following their intuition. It doesn't make sense to me, because my intuition is for myself, for me to follow. And maybe this is something that they feel they need to follow. And who am I to get in the way of that? Right? And so definitely life experiences do shape you, do help you grow. Again, I am a whole different person than I was 5 years ago. Night and day. My belief systems, just a lot of things. To the core, I'm the same person, like me and Lauren, to the core, I'm the same person, but things in life shape you to have different other alternative outlooks, on top of who you are to the core. And I feel more now than ever that I'm more who I actually am. And that's been because I've been following my own intuition and not everybody else's. I love you guys so much. I never know what I'm gonna say whenever I turn the mic on. I always just say a little prayer to myself, whatever information needs to come out for today, whatever somebody needs to hear, just let them hear it, just let it flow. And that's how I do my podcast. That's how I've been doing my podcast for over a year now. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you feel inspired. I hope you know that there is somebody out there that will never judge you, that will always love you. And it's not just myself, it's also you. Whenever you start to hold that true, genuine love for yourself, that true, genuine space for yourself, people who mirror that will also show up in your reality. And that's another thing that I've learned within my life. And that is one of the most beautiful things. Until next time, goddesses. I love you guys so very much. I hope you enjoyed this small little podcast episode. Half hour, 45 minutes. It's always around that time. Sometimes longer. This is why I did not go on the quantum physics rant, because your girl could go in and down that rabbit hole. But I really do hope you guys are inspired to make the empowered decision that is solely based on your best interest, and to know that the right people will always be there. They'll never hold judgment, and they will actually hold space for you. You'll never have to question whether or not you need them in your lives. They'll just be. I love you. Until next time.